Salim had once been a very wealthy farmer, but he hadn't managed his farm wisely and had been very careless with his money. He realized too late what a fool he had been when he lost everything. Now he and his wife lived poorly in a small house which could hardly be called a house. The cracks in the walls made it impossible to keep the house warm. Rain came through the holes in the roof. Their life was very hard. They had always prayed for a child, but during their years of wealth, God had never answered. Now that they were poor and had nothing, Salim's wife gave birth to a baby girl. "Salim, what are we going to do now? We don't have enough food for ourselves. How will we take care of this little baby?" his wife cried. "We'll find a way, don't worry. She's a gift from God. He will surely help us find a way. But first, we need to ask someone to be our daughter's godmother." They had no relatives in the area, so Salim went to ask their neighbor's wife. "My husband and I are poor people just like you. Why should we take on the responsibility of your child along with our own money worries?" was her answer. Salim returned home with the bad news. "What else can we expect? When we were rich, everyone wanted to know us and be our friends. Even the governor invited us to his home. But now that we have nothing, not even a poor woman will help us," his wife said sadly. She was very worried about their little baby. Winter was almost over, but it was still very cold at night. The ground froze, and in the morning, the houses and trees were covered in snow. They had no clothes for their child, only old pieces of clothing, and her bed was the cold, hard ground. Salim's wife kissed their baby and cried, "My poor baby, my poor little darling." Then, suddenly, an idea came to her. She told Salim to go and ask the governor's wife to be their child's godmother. She knew the governor's wife was already a godmother to another child and thought she might help them too. Salim wasn't sure, but he went to ask her anyway, with a heavy heart. Salim walked past the fields and farmland that used to be his. He arrived at the governor's house and conveyed his wife's good wishes to the governor's wife, then asked if she would be the godmother to their child. "You know how difficult things are right now. Everyone is struggling. I can't afford to help someone as poor as you. Why are you asking me anyway? Isn't there someone else you could ask?" she answered. "Well, my wife is godmother to your child," he answered. "Oh, I see. So this is a debt that I have to repay, isn't it? Is that why your wife agreed to be our child's godmother? And tell me, what good is she to your child now when you have nothing? How dare you come to my home and insult me like this? I wouldn't be your child's godmother even if you paid me in gold." Salim left in tears. When he got home, he told his wife what had happened at the governor's house. She was very sad, but he told her not to lose hope. He decided to take their child to the christening himself and ask the first person he met on the road to be his daughter's godmother. His wife, crying, wrapped their child in an old blanket to protect her from the cold winds and put her in her father's arms. Salim dressed as warmly as he could and began his journey, carrying his baby sadly but proudly down the road. After several hours, he saw an old woman dressed in dirty, torn old clothes, walking very slowly on a bent leg. He hesitated for a moment, then walked up to her, told her his situation, and asked if she could be the godmother to their baby. The old woman smiled warmly, took the little baby in her arms, and said, "Yes, of course I will. I would be happy to be the godmother to such a sweet little baby whose father loves her so much." Together they went to the church. The priest was just getting ready to leave when his assistant ran up to him and told him that some people were coming. "Oh no, who is it, and what do they want at this late hour?" said the priest, who wanted to get home for his dinner. "It's only Salim. You know, the one who lost everything. He's as poor as the poorest peasant now," said his assistant. As they walked to the church, the godmother saw that the assistant was saying something mean to the priest, so when they entered, she took out a shiny silver coin from her dress and gave it to the priest. The priest was surprised. He looked at the coin, then at the old woman in her dirty clothes, and quietly told his assistant to get ready for the baby's christening. The christening ceremony was grand, fit for rich merchants. The baby girl was named Brittany. After the ceremony, the priest walked with them to the church door. His assistant walked with them to the gate, hoping for a good reward. The old woman gave him a silver coin, which he happily accepted. When Salim and the old woman reached the place where they had first met, she gave the baby back to him. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out another silver coin, which she tucked inside the baby's clothes. She smiled at Salim and said, "This is my gift to your child. It will provide enough money to raise her well and give her everything she needs. This child will bring you and your wife great joy and comfort. When she grows up, she will have a long and happy marriage." The kind godmother then touched the ground, and suddenly a beautiful tree appeared, covered in sweet-smelling flowers. Salim tried to look at the lovely flowers, then turned to thank the old woman. But she was gone. He was amazed and confused. "Goodbye. Thank you, kind godmother," he said. He stood there holding little Britty, looking all around. He might have stayed there a long time if Brittany hadn't started crying for her lunch. So he began walking, and as he walked, Salim thought about all the wonderful things that had happened that day. At one point, he stopped and checked Brittany's blanket to make sure the coin was still there, to make sure he hadn't dreamed it. He took it out, and suddenly it turned into 10 coins and slipped out of his hand, falling on the ground. Once again, he stood there, speechless, full of wonder. He picked up the coins, laughing, put them in his pockets, and almost ran back home with Brittany. Salim's wife was waiting anxiously at home, hungry, thirsty, and cold. There was no food in the house, and they had no money. She was very surprised when Salim came in with a happy smile on his face and told her all about the kind godmother. When he finished, Salim told his wife to take the godmother's christening gift out of Brittany's blanket. She reached in and pulled out the coin. Suddenly, there were 10, 20, 30 coins. She cried out in joy and surprise. The coins slipped from her hands and scattered all over the floor. They both began to pick them up, but for every one they picked up, another 10 appeared. In the end, there was a huge pile of gold shining in front of them. They sat on the floor, laughing and crying at the same time. Then Salim's wife suddenly felt scared. Could this money be an evil curse? Perhaps the woman was an evil spirit who wanted to buy their souls. Salim laughed and said, "Don't be silly. What evil spirit goes into a church?" But Salim knew this godmother wasn't an ordinary woman. Maybe she was a good spirit sent by God to help them. However, he warned his wife that they must keep their secret safe. He told her to hide the money and not tell anyone the true story. He took 1 coin to the governor to exchange for money so he could buy bread, chicken, eggs, and milk. When he asked his wife what else he should buy, she immediately replied, "Our house, our animals, our land, our fields." "Tomorrow morning," Salim replied happily. Then his wife became very serious and said, "But Salim, please manage them more carefully this time." Salim took her in his arms and spoke quietly. "I promise to do this for you and our child. I've been very foolish and caused us much worry and sadness. But I've learned my lesson. Please believe me." He then left to get groceries. While he was out, His wife sat holding her baby and dreaming happily about their future. After some time, Salim returned with the governor's servant, who was carrying buckets of fresh milk, a basket of eggs, and some wonderful chocolate cakes. "The governor's wife sends her good wishes to you both and has sent me to help you in any way I can," the servant told her. Salim's wife thanked her and watched as the servant began preparing a delicious soup for them on the fire. Salim had also bought 3 soft feather beds, which he placed by the fire. The next day, Salim went to buy back their farm. The governor's wife was very curious to know how Salim and his wife had become wealthy again since his visit to their house the day before. So while Salim was out, she visited his wife and asked questions. But Salim's wife didn't tell their secret. She simply told her that Brittany's godmother had kindly given them enough money to help them start again. After the governor's wife left, Salim's wife sat by the fire and thought about their kind godmother. She thanked her for giving them a second chance in life. Salim did buy back all their property, and this time he managed it wisely. He built beautiful farm fields and a beautiful house for his family. He bought the very best animals, and in the summers, his fields were full of healthy cotton and rice. His farm became the best in the entire land. Salim and his wife were loved and admired, as they were good neighbors, generous, and helpful to any poor farmer who was having bad luck. Brittany was a lovely child. She brought Salim and his wife great joy and comfort, as her godmother had said she would. When she grew up, a rich prince fell in love with her beauty and asked her to marry him. She married him and lived a long and happy life. Salim and his wife stayed healthy as they got older. In the evenings, they often sat by the fire and talked about the time when the kind godmother appeared and changed Salim's luck.